Hi, this is Gary McIntosh, and I'm talking to you today from my home in Temecula, California. Like most of you, I've been attending church online, and it's been an interesting experience. My wife and I have actually gone to about 3 churches every Sunday morning. It's been a great time to see what churches are doing, and I've even had an opportunity to visit some of my former students in their churches who are in Canada and on the East Coast. So it's just been a great time. But I know, like many of you, it's been a discouraging time too, because we've been away from our friends. We haven't been able to give handshakes and hugs and high fives and talking to people in a social way. But now we're getting ready to go back to our churches and to gather again. And I'd like to just take a moment this morning to talk to you about just some brief ideas of what you could do to come back strong. When I was in junior high school and in high school, I used to run track. Back in those days, as I recall, I ran the 50-yard dash, the 100-yard dash, and sometimes the 220 and the 440. I wasn't always the best. I usually would come in about a 4th or 5th place and never was on the actual varsity, but it was fun anyway. I look back now and I remember that we would be standing there getting ready to start the race, and the starter would call us up, and the starter would typically say, runners to your mark. And we would walk up, to the starting line. He would say, get set, and we would get down into our starting blocks, and then he would say, go. Or in many cases, he would shoot the starting pistol. On your mark, get set, go. I think this is what we need to do today. With the pandemic, we certainly have had some discouraging times, but I also want to just remind you that any time that we have challenging things like this happen in our society, that it actually creates more receptivity to the gospel and to the gospel message. Today, we need to take advantage of that. There is much receptivity to spiritual things today. People are open and willing to engage in spiritual conversations. And so take advantage of that. We see this, of course, in just the fact that so many people have now been watching church online. There's people watching church online who would have never come to your church in person. And today they're watching online. And that tells us that there's some sort of receptive spirit in their mind and their heart and their emotions to spiritual things. And so as churches, we need to get on our mark, we need to get ready, and we need to go. So for on your mark, I would suggest that what we need to do is to encourage right now all of our regular church attenders and members to connect with their friends and family. Years and years of research going back to I would say the 1950s has confirmed that the reason that people come to Christ and the church is through connections with friends and family. And so right now, I would say you need to connect with your regular church attenders and your regular church members and encourage them to begin to start connecting with their friends and their family and to begin to give invitations to church, particularly when you're ready to go back to church and you're ready to gather together. Encourage your current people to reach out to those people that they know who live within a geographically about a 15-20 mile radius of your church building, and invite their friends and their family to come to church. That's why people come to church, is because of personal invitations. So on your mark means let's get ready right now by talking to our church people, encouraging them to connect with family and friends, and to give out invitations to come to church. Get set. I think that the one thing that we can do as churches that will probably be the most valuable to connecting people is to work right now with your welcoming team, your connecting team, and begin to plan on how you're going to be prepared when people come back to church. I would say you probably need to double the number of ushers, you need to double the number of greeters. You need to think through the whole process of how you're going to welcome people when they drive into the parking lot, how you're going to greet them when they get out of their cars, how are you going to say hello to them as they walk up to the church building, how are you going to thank them for coming as they come into the church building. You need to think through this entire process of how you're going to do that. And so right now, I think get set means that we need to get set to welcome our guests. And so I would recommend that right now, over Zoom or other platforms, you begin to meet with your welcoming team and begin to brainstorm about what you can do to really welcome people, particularly that first month when we're back meeting as a church. I really think this is where you can find the most results, by working with your welcoming team and your connecting team. And not only are you talking about welcoming people that first Sunday back, or those first few weeks back, but we're talking about how are you going to connect with them in the weeks that follow. How are you going to obtain their emails, and how are you going to get their phone numbers, and then how are you going to encourage them to connect with the church through small groups and other events like that. So think this through right now. On your mark, encourage your people to connect with their friends and family and to invite people to come. Get set, start right now working with your welcoming team to build up your welcoming process and your follow-up process so it is the best it can be. And then go. I think go means that today what we need to do is to make sure that we preach the gospel of salvation. It's very tempting right now to talk about a lot of things, but people are receptive to the gospel. They're looking for hope in our world. And what better place is there for hope than in the person of Jesus Christ through his death, burial, and resurrection? We all have hope today, primarily because Christ has defeated death and he has been resurrected, and he's a living Savior today. We serve a living Savior, not a dead Savior. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that right now that we're preaching the gospel of salvation. You can do that online right now, but make sure you do that particularly in the weeks that people start to come back. People will be coming back with a hunger for hope and for a good word about the future. And so many of them will be non-Christians, or they'll be people who have not really heard the full explanation of the gospel again. So make sure that whatever your topic is that you're preaching on, that you weave in there the gospel of salvation. So this is Gary McIntosh in Temecula, California. I'm the co-pastor or the co-author of What Every Pastor Should Know. And I'm just encouraging to get on your mark, encourage people to make friends and to encourage their family and friends to come to church, to get set, work with your welcoming team, your connecting team to make it as sharp as possible, and to go preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. And God will bless our efforts. It's been good to be with you today. May God bless you in the days ahead.